Welcome to a Faithful God podcast. I'm your host, Tammy Rotzel, and today on the show, we're going to wrap up our Spiritual Reset series as we talk about walking in obedience. So grab those earbuds and your favorite beverage and join me for today's show. Hi, friend. Happy Monday. Welcome back to the show. I am so pumped to talk about this today. I really geek out about it. So before we get started, I do want to remind you, wherever you are listening, be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode. If you're watching me on YouTube on YouTube, be sure to like or comment below. I love connecting with you guys. I truly do. Also, one final thing before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done so already, hop on over to afaithfulgod.com or footprintsofinspiration.com. Either one is going to take you to the same place. Click the banner at the top of the page to download my 4 steps to a spiritual reset. I'm going to help you in there, give you the prompts that you need, some questions to reflect on to help guide you through this reset. I've got a place for you to write down your favorite verses and also your prayers and stuff throughout the reset. So be sure to do that. So as we have been talking, we've been building this foundation for today. Everything kind of wraps back around and it's tied up today in this pretty little bow when we learn to walk in obedience. We've talked about, and by the way, if this is your first time tuning in, thank you, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here, but I want you to press pause and go back to the first episode in this spiritual reset series, because you're going to want to go through those before you can learn to walk in obedience. So make sure that you do that. All right. So we've talked about prayer and solitude, right? What do we talk about there? That prayer is it's nothing more than just having an intentional conversation with God. That's it. Super easy. It doesn't have to be rehearsed. It doesn't have to be polished. It's just communicating with God. That's it. We've talked about solitude and how, yes, it would be nice to be able to go in and lock ourselves away, shut everybody out and all of that. And I feel like that's very important. However, it is not needed to experience solitude with God, right? We talked about that. It is more the state of mind of intentionally setting our mind on God, right? We talked about Bible study and journaling and how the difference between just reading the Bible and studying the Bible. We talked about journaling and how when we write these things down, we are 70% more likely to remember them. And that's so important as we go through life. We want to remember these Bible verses because that's where we find God's truth. That's where we find his promises. And we've got to remember those so that way when we are going through life and beraged berated is a better way to say that, with Satan and his lies and all the hard and the messy and the just everything, the yuck of life. That's when we can remember those Bible verses and remember, oh, that's right, I know God's truth, right? So then today what we're going to do is we're going to dive into walking in obedience. And I know this is scary. I know it's hard, but it's so much fun. And I'm so excited to share it with you. So throughout this series, we have talked about 2 words in particular: intentionality and participation. When we've been talking about being intentional about just those little moments that you can have conversations with God throughout the day. Being intentional about setting our mind on him. Being intentional about getting into the Bible. All lasting transformation begins by spending time in his presence. And when we are intentional about spending time in his presence, that's when we start to see change. That's when that lasting transformation happens. We also talked about participation, how we have to participate. We have to be the ones to go there and speak to God. We have to be the ones to get into that Bible and open it up. And we also have to be the ones to participate in the transformation by walking in obedience. Every year I focus on a word. I have a word for the year and a Bible verse for the year. And you may have this, or excuse me, you may do this as well. You may have heard it from a lot of people. I will be honest with you. I take that word very seriously. And it's not something that I choose just kind of willy-nilly. I have been praying on it. I ask God to lead me, to guide me, what it is, what word do I need to really focus on and commit to this year. Last year, my word was surrender. And, I've told the story about last December when I woke up one morning and God was calling me to rest. My to-do list was a mile long. And I heard him, and what he does is he convicts me with this word when I'm dragging my feet and I don't want to listen. And again, it was surrender. So, he put this in my mind, like gave me that check in my spirit team. And you said you were going to surrender this year. So you need to surrender and go where I'm leading you. You need to rest and do the things I need you to do here. And so I take this very seriously. This year, my word is obedience. And I am walking, even when I want to pull out those yeah, but I can't because of this. Yeah, but I can't because of that. God gives me that check in my spirit because I've been praying for him. Lord, when I start to drag my feet, remind me that I am choosing to walk in obedience where you are leading me. And so he will convict me with that word. Interestingly enough, my verse for the year is Psalm chapter 32, verse 8 and 9. And I'm just going to read it to you because it is powerful and it's important. Even if your word is not obedience this year, we are talking about obedience. And if we want to see that transformation, we have to go where God is calling us. And so this verse is just so powerful. It's Psalm chapter 32, verse 8 through 9. And it says, I hear the Lord saying, I will stay close to you, instructing and guiding you along the pathway for your life. I will advise you along the way and lead you forth with my eyes as your guide. So don't make it difficult. Don't be stubborn when I take you where you've not been before. Don't make me tug you and pull you along. Just come with me. Boom, right? How many times do we have to be pulled and tugged to go and follow where God is calling us? How many times do we want to sit in our comfort zone, in that cushy old comfortable zone, and not go because we don't know what's coming next? And here in Psalm chapter 32, it tells us that God will lead us, that God will lead us and take us and show us how to make this happen, show us how to get, and he will equip us with what we need to go in the direction he wants us to go. A couple series back, we talked about our identity in Christ, what our purpose was. Does God really have a plan and a purpose for our life? And we know that it is to make God known and bring him glory, right? But we've all been given these different gifts and talents in our life to carry out that ultimate calling. And the way we have to do that is by walking in obedience. You see, if we're sitting on these gifts and talents that God has given us, if we're not using them, then they're useless. They're useless. We need to actually go to God. I was listening to a podcast a while ago, and you may have heard me say this before because I think I mentioned it, but I was listening to the Jennifer Allwood show a while ago, and she said something in there. She said, if you aren't using the gifts and talents that God has given you, you need to go to him and ask for forgiveness right now. That's powerful, right? If we are sitting in all of our excuses, all of our yeah buts, all of our fears, and not stepping out and walking in obedience, not stepping out and doing what God is calling us to do, then our gifts and talents are useless. We don't want to be useless. We want to get out of that feeling, that's not right, useless, right? We're wanting that transformation in our life. We're wanting to live that fulfilled life. We're wanting to heal from the brokenness. We want to heal from the past mistakes. We want to heal from the pain someone else has caused us. We want to heal from our chronic illness, both emotionally and physically. If we're going to do those things, we have to go where God is leading us. We have to participate in that transformation we want to see by walking in obedience. Friend, we can't sit on the sidelines of life and expect these changes to happen. We can't. We can't. And it's no fun. It is so much more fun to be going out and living, fulfilling your ultimate calling, what God has planned for you, than sitting on the sidelines of life, wishing your life away or grumbling your life away. I mean, let's be honest. How many of us, I have, sat on the sidelines grumbling about the predicaments, about the circumstances, about the mess that I'm in, grumbling over and over and over again, saying over and over again, yeah, but I can't do that because. Yeah, but that would never work for me because. They're all lies. They're all excuses. They're all fears. And none of them are a match for God. In James chapter 2, there are some verses in there about faith and good deeds, walking out, stepping out, and doing the things you are called to do. And in fact, it says in verse 14, it says, what good is it, dear brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but you don't show it by your actions? You want to have faith. You want to see a transformation in your life, but you're sitting on the sidelines waiting for it to happen. Doesn't work, does it? A little bit further down in 17, it says, so you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Sitting on the sidelines and praying and studying the Bible, which is all important. I want you to hear me when I say that. It is so important. You are building that foundation. So I don't want to say that's not important, but it's not enough. You have to, unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. Unless you're using those gifts and talents, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone and walking where God is calling you to go. It's useless. Your gifts and talents are useless. And believe me, I've spent many, many years feeling useless. Many, many years in my bed with with the covers pulled over my head, feeling like I am useless. And God has shown me that that is so far from the truth. That I may not be able to work outside of my home anymore. That I may have to work be close by. So when I get a migraine, I can go, take my meds and go to bed. But look at how big our God is. When I stepped out in faith and said, okay, God, I'm listening. This is what you're telling me. I'm listening. I'm walking. And look how big it is. I get to connect with people all over the world, my friends. And he has something big and beautiful planned for you too. But you've got to walk out where he is leading you. There are so many things we don't do in our life because of fear. And our brains, when we were created, our brains were designed to protect us from danger. That's why it will process fear. There's danger somewhere, and it's going to give you that fear to say, oh, let me step back and let me not, I better not go there. I better step away from that cliff so I don't fall down the mountain, right? But fear of stepping out of your comfort zone is not what was planned when God designed, when he created us and when he created that fear in us. You see, Satan uses our fears to stop us from doing God's work. He uses our fears. He feeds our fears until they become something that God did not mean for them to be. Did that make sense? I hope that made sense. Your fear of stepping out, your fear of, not knowing how to do something, your fear of not knowing what the next, big picture is, your fear, whatever it is, unless you're going to be attacked by a mountain lion, is not real fear from God. That doesn't come from God. We don't serve a God who deals in fear. We just don't. So I want you to recognize that the next time you're thinking to yourself, as you're going through this spiritual reset, you're saying, okay, God, where do you want me to go? God, where are you leading me? When you start to be afraid or get afraid of something, I want you to stop real quick and say a prayer and say, Lord, is this coming from you or is this coming from Satan? I want you to remember what it is you were writing down in the spiritual reset. What it is you were writing down about the truth about fear. I want you to remember those things and recognize them for what they are. They're lies from the enemy. It's Satan fueling your fears to keep you to stop you, from doing the things you were created to do. It's time to get off the sidelines of life, my friend. It's time to get out there and experience this life you were created for. We have to kind of reframe our thinking. We have to reframe our comfort zone. Cool thing is every time we take a step outside of our comfort zone, that zone of comfort increases. And then we take another step and it increases more. And we take another step and it increases more. And each time that you take that step and each time it increases, you have more and more faith. You trust more and more, and it becomes easier and easier every single time. You just have to put in the work, my friend. You have to participate even when you don't want to, even when you're scared out of your mind, even when you have no idea what's to come. You have to participate. You have to walk in obedience. Remember, use his eyes as your guide. Don't make him pull you and tug you. Just go with him. You see, we serve a God who wants us to stay in motion. We don't want to sit in a stagnant world and just sit there uncomfortable, knowing we want more, but not doing anything about it, right? We are supposed to be in motion. It's funny because our comfort zones, and I've been reading a lot about this lately with something else that I'm working on, and I'll share at some point with you guys, but something else that I'm working on. And these places where we are, these comfort zones, as I say with, air quotes here, quote unquote, comfort zones, even in those comfort zones, they're uncomfortable. If you think about it, there is a lot of uncomfortability inside the comfort zone. Does that sound right? So there's a lot of that in there. We're uncomfortable because we're still dealing in the pain of past hurts and past mistakes and broken relationships and financial hardship and the pain of and fear of stepping out. That's still it's still uncomfortable. It's still discomfort. We're still longing for something more. But so often, this is what is the word I'm trying to come up with? Forgive me. I can't think of the word right now. But this is a comfort zone that we're used to. Even though we're not comfortable where we are, even though we want more in life, this uncomfortable feeling that we're having is I can't come up with the word. It's terrible. I can't come up with the word, but we're so used to it. We're so used to it. You guys probably have the word. You're probably saying, Tammy, here's the word. But you're so used to it. And so it's hard to step out and do something different and uncomfortable because we don't know it. We don't know it. But when we choose to participate, in the transformation we want to see, when we choose to stop living, in the place where we are right now, that's when things happen in our life. That's when we see, oh my gosh, this fulfilled, incredible life. But we've got to walk in obedience. We have to listen. to where God is calling us. And friend, there are so many places in the Bible, and you can look it up, scriptures on being lazy. God, again, we don't serve a God who expects us to just sit stagnant. We are supposed to be in motion. You want to find the truth of that? Then Google scriptures on being lazy in the Bible, and you're going to get all kinds of Bible verses on that. God does not want us to be lazy, sitting in that comfort zone. He wants to extract us from there. He wants to pull us out. He wants to give us an abundance in this life. But we have to walk in obedience to do it. One of the biggest stories of obedience in the Bible is that of Abraham and Isaac and it's back in Genesis 22. So if you haven't read that story yet in the Bible, go back and read it. It's a tough one. I'm not going to lie. It's a tough one. But this is when God calls Abraham to take his son and offer him as a sacrifice. Now, this is an extreme case of obedience, correct? And think about all the things that you've gone through in your life and times when you felt God leading you somewhere, felt that check in your spirit. Maybe you didn't know at the time it was God calling you to that or nudging you to that. But these extreme times that sometimes sometimes feel as hard and difficult as sacrificing our own children, right? But with this extreme, with this just crazy faith, Abraham took his son up there, laid Isaac on the altar, and was going to do exactly what God asked him to do. And God said, wait. Because we don't serve a God who wants to destroy you, who wants to kill, who wants to, do those kinds of things. And he said, wait, Abraham, you have shown your obedience to me. You have shown your faith in me, your loyalty to me, Abraham. And now I am going to multiply the nations. He's going to give him this abundance of blessings. Friend, when you choose to walk in obedience, when you choose to have that crazy faith that Abraham had, that's when God is going to pour out an abundance of blessings on you. That's when he is going to heal you. That is when he is going to give you that fulfilled life you are longing for. But you have to take that first step, friend. As I've said before, do we serve a God who could do it without you taking that first step? Absolutely. Absolutely, we do. But it says over and over and over again, we learn this over and over and over again, that we have to participate. We have to stand beside God and say, okay, God, I'm ready. Put me in the game, coach. I'm ready to play. I'm ready to be open up and fully receive all that you have for me. But the only way we can do it, friends, is if we walk in obedience. We listen to where God is calling us, even when it's hard. So a couple of things to really keep in mind when it comes to, stepping outside of your comfort zone. Be ready for the fear. It's going to come. Right? We want to be proactive, because when we are proactive, when we remember and we're suiting up with God's armor every day by praying and communicating with him, by setting our minds on him, by studying scripture, by journaling and writing everything down, then we can face those fears and say, that's not truth. That is not truth. But be ready for that fear, because it's going to come, and I want you to step outside anyway. Number 2, what if you misunderstand where God is leading you? That's a big one, right? That is a big one. All right, friend, here's what I want to talk about here. When we're learning, remember we talked about spiritual discipline a couple episodes ago. Spiritual discipline is creating those habits, practices, and experiences, right, that build our soul faith, right? Our soul reflexes, so we're better able to handle things. Guess what? There are going to be some times that you're going to step out and it really wasn't where God was calling you to. It's okay. It's okay. okay. God would rather you do that. I believe this, that God would rather you do that than sit stagnant, than sit and do nothing at all. God is so big that if you do step off the wrong path, he's going to get you right back on it. He's going to get you back on it. And guess what? You're going to learn along the way, right? We're practicing listening for God. These are the times that you say, God, if I step off your path, I want you to do whatever it takes to put me back on your path. He's going to put you back there, my friend. You're going to learn some lessons along the way, for sure. And that's okay. That's not just okay. It's great. Because there are no failures when you are walking close to God. There are no failures. There are lessons. There are opportunities to grow. So don't let that fear of messing up stop you, or that fear of not understanding or hearing God's word clearly. Don't let that stop you. Pray about it. Ask God to convict you and to put you back on the path if you veer off, and go and take that step. And if that happens, my friend, do not turn away from God. Again, I want to be proactive with this. I want to talk to you about the things that you're going to experience stepping outside of your comfort zone. And in those times that you take a wrong turn, in those times where you step out and it wasn't the right way, do not turn away from God in shame, in guilt, or in defeat. You lean into God instead, because I'm telling you, friend, it's going to happen. But instead of turning away from him and go way off the other way, you lean into him and say, Lord, I messed up. I don't think I heard you clearly, Lord. Show me your way. Teach me in this moment. So be prepared for it, because it's going to happen and it's okay. Something else I want you to remember when you're stepping outside of your comfort zone is that it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Just because you're following God doesn't mean everything is going to be super easy and you're going to whiz through everything. It doesn't. There are going to be storms. What is it? Is it John 16:33? In this life you will have trouble. God tells you that. He tells you that. So stepping outside of your comfort zone, walking in obedience, and following the path that God has for you does not mean it is going to be a piece of cake, that it's going to be a walk in the park. It doesn't. But I've got a question for you. Is what you're doing right now a walk in the park? I'd rather go God's way and learn the lessons and be open with a teachable heart to learn in those trials and hard times. Because those are, when we're following God and when we're walking in obedience, those are the times that we are learning, that we are growing, that again, we are developing those soul reflexes, right? Think about these athletes who train really hard for something big. Do you think they get it right the first time? Do you think it's super easy for them to do? It's not. Of course not. We know that, right? That's obvious. And yet, we think when we're following God that everything should be easy. No. We are training. He is training us. He is teaching us. We are learning endurance. We're learning faith. We're learning courage. And all those things take practice and hard work. All those things take, they don't come super, super easy, but they're far more rewarding, aren't they? Think about how much more rewarding it will be when you choose to walk in obedience, when you choose to follow where God is calling you, and you've worked hard for it. You've learned lessons along the way. Friend, remember, we are that lump of clay, right? God is the potter, and we are that lump of clay. In order to be used and fulfill our ultimate calling, God needs to mold us and shape us. And sometimes that's going to require hard times. That's going to require, storms to teach us, to equip us with what we need to fulfill that ultimate calling. So I don't want you to shy away when things get hard. In fact, when you expect it, again, we're going to be proactive. We're going to reframe our mind to see those hard times, those struggles as teachable moments. Those are the times when when we're in those hard times and we say, you know what, God, this is so hard right now. I am tired. I'm exhausted. But open my heart and open my eyes and my ears to what you're teaching me in this moment, because I know you have something big planned for me. So again, be prepared for that. Those struggles, those storms are going to come. And they're glorious. They're glorious because of what they prepare you for. Friend, this is not the end of your reset. You may have finished this video, and as you continue to work through it, especially if you have the action plan or the journal for women, the spiritual reset journal for women, I've given you the Bible verses to continue to reflect on this week. But even so, I don't want this to be the end of your journey. Now is the time where the rubber meets the road. Now is the time where we're going to test our faith. We're going to keep pursuing, keep participating. And each time it'll get easier and easier to walk where God is leading us. Walk where God is leading us. To step outside of our comfort zone and say, heck yeah, God, I'm all in. I am scared. I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know where you are leading me. I don't know how to do it. But you do, Lord. But you do, and I can rest in that. I was watching a sermon just the other day from Pastor Michael Todd. If you guys don't follow him on Instagram and or YouTube, you need to. He is amazing. But he was actually talking about, forgive me, the dog is out there running and playing right now, so bear with me for a moment. We're just going to keep rolling with it, right? We're just going to keep rolling with it. So anyway, so he was talking about being inside that boat and in the storms, and how the disciples were upset and worried because of this great mighty storm. And what was God doing in it? And it was in Matthew, by the way. I should have pulled that up. I didn't even think about it, but it was in Matthew. And what was Jesus doing in that boat? He was laying down sleeping with his head on a pillow or something of the sort. In that storm, in those trials, in those challenges, the disciples were saying, oh my gosh, this is hard, this is messy, this is scary. But Jesus wasn't afraid. He was sitting at the back of the boat, sleeping, or laying at the back of the boat, sleeping. You see, when we walk in obedience and we step onto that path where God is leading us, where God is taking us, there are going to be storms and troubles and trials and challenges. But God is not worried. And if God isn't worried, if God knows and has led you to this place, there's no reason to fear. There's no reason to stress and worry. There's no reason to sit and do nothing because you're afraid of stepping outside of that comfort zone. God's got you. And if he is leading you there, he is going to equip you with what you need to do it. So friend, again, this is not the end of your reset. I want you to really, really work on walking in obedience. Really, really work on asking God, you know what, God, give me your eyes as my guide as I walk through this. Lord, you are no longer going to need to pull me and tug me to go. I am just going to go with you, right? I'm going to take that step even though I'm afraid. I'm going to take that step because I know you have something big and beautiful planned for me. And more importantly, you have something big and beautiful planned with my story. And I know it's going to help someone else. I know I can use it to serve you today, Lord. We just have to participate. We just have to say, okay, God, put me in the game. I am ready. I don't know how to play it, but I'm ready. So friend, this week I want you to remind, and this week and actually every week after, I want you to remember to go to God and say, God, where are you leading me today? How can I serve you today? Lord, show me where it is you want me to go. And then give me the courage to step out in faith and go where you are calling me. Give me that courage to know that I don't have to know the big picture. I just have to know the next step. I want you to keep communicating with him. I want you to keep setting your mind on him throughout the day. I want you to keep getting into your Bible and keep journaling and keep choosing to participate by walking in obedience. Friend, it is not too late to grab the Spiritual Reset Journal for women, and it also comes with an action plan. So if you don't want to print off the whole journal, you can get a journal and just write directly in there. But if you haven't done so yet, go to 4 Weeks to a Spiritual Reset, download that for free, and you'll have an opportunity to get that journal for $7. And it, like I said, it comes with the action plan. But that is going to help you walk through this. This is going to guide you and give you Bible verses each day to study and journal and all the things you need to do to walk through a spiritual reset, to grow closer to God. Everything you need to do to heal from the pain and the brokenness that you're feeling in your life. Everything you need to do to finally get the energy from that chronic illness and get up out of bed today and maybe change scenery. That is going to help you do all those things because it's a transformation that you're looking for. And I am so honored and so excited to be on this journey with you. Friend, I want to hear from you. Be sure to, if you're on YouTube, comment below and tell me what it is you are going to do today to step out in faith. If you're not watching on YouTube, or you'd rather send me a DM on Instagram or Facebook, do that. I want to hear from you, and I want to know. I'm going to hold you accountable, my friend. I want to know what you're going to do this week to listen to God and take that step forward, to step out in faith and say, heck yeah, God, I'm all in. So send me a message because I want to hear from you. Friend, this wraps up our Spiritual Reset series, and it also wraps up another season of a Faithful God podcast. Oh my goodness, it's so exciting. Lots of cool stuff. So make sure you're subscribed to the show so that way then when the new season starts again, you will be sure to get them in your feed. I also want to encourage you, if you are not already a member of our community, hop on over to footprintsofInspiration.com/subscribe so that you're getting our newsletter. I'm going to be on there. I also am really having fun hanging out on Instagram. So connect with me on Instagram as well. That is another place, both that and the newsletter. You'll also hear when the next season of a Faithful God podcast will start. So we shall see. I'm going through this spiritual reset with you and following where God is leading me. So we'll see what he has in store next. But a new season of a Faithful God podcast will be coming soon. And I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up each and every week. It means the world to me. It truly, truly does. All right, friend, go out. Step outside of your comfort zone this week. I want to see you start living this life you were created for. So walk in obedience and don't make God pull you and tug you. Just go with him.